Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to a very interesting discussion today. Today, we're going to be diving deep into how technology is disrupting the banking and financial services in our country. And we're also going to be looking at the role of emerging technologies and the future of risk management. To do just that, I have with me an esteemed panel of leaders today. Please welcome them. Hussain Zaidi, who is the VP BFSI at Kyndryl, and we have Tejasvi Adagada, who is the VP and Head Enterprise Data Management at HDFC. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for calling us.
Thank you for having me here.
It's our absolute pleasure to have you. So let me, without further ado, get right into the thick of the discussion. When it comes to financial services, what do you see the role of technology when it comes to transforming it, and how is it evolving in the sector?
Technology plays a big role in terms of financial services. Today, the way we see our financial services, not only banking, across lending, insurance, and then NBFCs and all, our customers and what we see in the market is about the technology enabling the growth of financial sector. The customers are adopting technology, as well as the consumers of the customers are also using the technology to get the services from institutions right now. What happens is the technology is enabling now beyond a regular banking called saving accounts. The institutions are providing loans, lending, insurance, mutual funds and all. And the adaptation of technology is enabling both providers as well as the consumers to consume services in a seamless manner. Technology, when it comes to the picture, also allows collaboration among the entities. Many insurance companies are collaborating with other NBFCs and vice versa. Also, the customers, for example, they are having the cross-aggregator platforms to consume services across. So technology in the back end, which is enabling all these functions across, is a key enabler for growth of industry. Going forward, for example, today, the India stack, Aadhaar cards, data platforms, the aggregators are also enabling in terms of collaboration of the industry. The technology platforms across segments is the enabler for that. In future, I believe the resilience of infrastructure, resilience of applications, also the security aspects will play a big role. And along with the combination of GenAI and AI is going to play a role in terms of being more proactive and predictive to ensure the services of providers and the consumers are seamless and always available.
Absolutely. And when it comes to the customer, because of the evolving needs, they have embraced technology in a big manner. So financial institutions are also matching up to that. Tejasvi, would love to hear your view on this.
Well, indeed, I would want to second what Hussain just said. You know, it's not just the financial services which are adopting technology, it's also the customers, as you rightly said, who in fact are looking for better ways and touch points to be able to transact with the banks, and also to service for themselves by having to connect through these touch points. Like, let's say, for example, WhatsApp banking has become quite popular today. But however, certain aspects around privacy, technology, security, IT controls, or risk associated with the underlying tech is something that the financial services are still focusing on to be able to cascade that trust back to the customers, to be able to give them confidence that, hey, you know what, you're transacting with confidence and there is nothing to be worried about. So I can see that, across the industry, multiple touch points are expanding, as well as the underlying privacy and the security threat surface is also increasing. And there are ways to be able to curtail some of these threats, which in fact is something that we actively get to see.
Sure.
Just to add to this point, that's I think the security aspect of threats, and we spoke about that. As an industry, financial institutions, providers, regulators, all of us, I think there's also a need for us to provide a lot of awareness to the consumers on security aspects of it. Security and risk mitigation plays a big role in terms of the growth of financial sector. And that's one of the technology aspect which is sometimes compromised because of the priorities of which we do. But the awareness out to the consumers and awareness to all people involved, the stakeholders on security aspect is very, very important in terms of process and also to how to avoid the risk.
Absolutely. When it comes to emerging technology, not just the customers and financial institutions, but even malicious actors have adopted in a big way, which is leading to so many spam and scams that are happening. So you're absolutely right. When it comes to spreading awareness, that should definitely be a priority to curtail this. That brings me to my next point. This is a key challenge that is plaguing the industry across industries. These sort of scams that are happening, this sort of AI-enabled scams that are happening now with the kind of deepfake tech that is there. But apart from that, what other challenges are you facing when it comes to the role of technology? And what are some of the challenges that you are facing in the industry when it comes to tech adoption? And also, what have been your transformation priorities?
I would say that, from the previous conversation that we had around expanding on the digital touch points to be able to help the customers, get service better. I would say that, most of the transformation priorities are around, while we adopt new channels to service customers better, we obviously would want to understand that, this technology is being supported in the right way, 24/7, in a way that, there is seamless communication that can be established with the customer at the time when the customer needs it. And at the same time, it's more about having to ensure there is observability built into these platforms that in fact are fueling the communication channels. While that is one of the priorities today for most of the banks and even for ourselves, I would call on the next aspect of having to ensure that, disaster recovery to be one of the most priority aspects, where in fact we need to have uptime associated with what we just spoke about as a channel and the communication being available to the customer, at least in a pseudo-synchronous way. And that apart, data today is fueling most of the digital transformation. If you look at HDFC Bank, we started the data office with the CFO, and we matured into having to move towards the digital office. So now the data office, in fact, sits within the digital office, which in fact gets to have the synergies between digital as well as data managed better in a way that there are further capabilities in a better way which are provided to customers. So let's take an example of CRMs today. Now, while some applications like Salesforce or CRM Next have been established for quite some years now, most of the banks, in fact, have a challenge with having to get value of the existing CRMs. Now, we are not using CRMs as a way to fuel our data warehouses, but we are getting to use our CRMs to be able to transact as well as to be able to service the customers. When a customer visits a branch, we know everything about the customer, what are the next needs, specifically that the customer would want to get to, so that the branch reps as well as the RMs get to understand the need and provide what the customer needs. And most of the aspects related to customers are probably around having to make them understand that their needs can be fickle, because today if I walk into a branch, I might not know what is the right loan or a variant of a loan that I would need probably to build a house. Now that is something which, if a branch rep is able to anticipate by having certain capabilities in a CRM, by having a golden record of myself, and anticipating how in fact the existing data can give an insight around what will be the best loan that I can pick up, and then seamlessly having to navigate me through the process and handing me over a pre-qualification letter right off the bat when I'm sitting with the relationship manager, is something as an experience that I can expect if I'm a customer walking into a branch. So today we are seeing the technology converge between data, digital, and CRMs to enable customers better service and better product capabilities.
Thank you for taking us through that, Tejas. That was a very comprehensive overview. Would love to know Kindle's POV on this.
Kindle's POV is about providing the priorities to transformation needs of our financial institution customers on this. The customers are looking for financial inclusion as a priority. How do I enable the outreach of the institutions to go to their consumers faster on that? customer experience, as they just mentioned about, is the highest priority for us to enable our customers to ensure their experience is rich. So that's where I would want to we would want to give the experience to the customers of an institution that the services being provided are seamless. They provide experience of hassle-free transaction on the ground, as well as the resiliency about. He spoke about DR resiliency and all. The resiliency and DR is not about managing an incident, about firefighting. It's about how can you be proactive about that. We bring the services about our industry knowledge and experience from various customers on the table for providing the observability of the environment, which is now growing beyond a data center of a customer, going beyond environment of a single customer. Also about how can you can be proactive in terms of adopting to a technology to provide you early warnings of subsystem which can become your choking point on that. So that's our POV. That's a transformation activity which we are working with many of our customers, and the journey is on, enabled based on the right technology available to us in terms of security, modern computing advantages, and also in terms of our right AI and AML formulas which we have got in the market.
Absolutely. Seamless integration of the various data touch points, and also the sort of best use of the omni-channel method that you have to best serve the customer. Staying on that, how can we further enable the seamless integration of embedded transactions into financial institutions?
I think we already are doing that activity on the ground. UPI, which I mentioned earlier, is about an example of where doing the platform-based services on payments, for example, right? The newly launched services called ULI, Unified Lending Interface, by RBI, is also an example of where the seamless loan transactions are going to happen across the institutions on this, and the common service available to them. So financial institutions are going to use these platforms, for example, to allow the transactions going to happen in a swift manner, faster, and also enabling the trust of the consumers onto the aspect of institutions, and that the trust about the right input in terms of credit ratings, right input in terms of need, and right disbursement of the amount is going to happen around that. I think the platformization of the technology is going to enable the payment, loan, lending, and also the credit part of it quite often. And again, the technology will play a role here again.
Tej, that brings me to my next question. How can organizations strategically evolve their risk management framework in order to leverage emerging technologies and also have a future outlook when it comes to risk resilience?
Yeah, that's a great question, in fact. And probably I need to get back to the aspects around, organizations having to do their risk assessments today. The first step, naturally, that comes to a chief risk officer is to understand what is the risk appetite of the organization when it comes to various risk categories, like an operational risk, or a regulatory risk, or a reputational risk, or a data risk. Now, I might be selfish in having to say data risk because I coined the word data risk management. And however, while I was with an erstwhile organization, the regulators, in fact, had a need to be able to specifically call out that, there is technology risk as a function, and there is data which is being considered as technology. And why don't you separate both of these and have data risk as a function to be able to understand, the various risks associated with data, its underlying infrastructure, and its operations. Because today the business processes, in fact, are running on systems and core banking systems. But however, the data that, in fact, flows through these systems has certain risk associated with its quality, or privacy, or security, and certain aspects around simplifying data in a consistent way across systems, so that all the systems and the processes talk the same language. And the industry, in fact, is moving towards having to formalize data risk management, considering data is an enterprise asset. But coming back to technology risk, now, what is the right mode of having an organization structure which, in fact, will enable having to put resiliency by having to mitigate and manage this risk is the question which we need to talk about, and would like to get your views on that.
My views on the risk management is a larger perspective in terms of frame. It involves people, processes and technology point of it. Process plays a big role in terms of what's your policy and appetite, as you spoke about that earlier, is a key aspect of it. Technology, of course, it makes it more automated and people independent, if you ask me on that. Technology is about how to have the framework which is adaptive to the needs of business as the business grows. Also, in terms of the technology should also allow you to not being, again, I spoke about earlier, not being reactive but proactive on this. In terms of risk management, right? It's not only about firefighting when the risk comes in. How do you avoid the risk coming in? That's a key aspect of the new framework which is going to come in. Service orientation becomes a key aspect of it, because risk on which services of business or financial services which you are going to provide becomes a key aspect of the work which we do. So this way, I think, is a frame where it is. It's a combination of all technology, people, and process. And it's not one-time activity. It's an ongoing journey about how to ensure that your risk is being identified and mitigated early in the stage rather than doing the firefighting.
So I popularly use a framework called capability driven framework for risk management, which in fact is a defense-based approach where we distribute the controls across people, process, and technology. And more probably, when it comes to technology risk, there is a certain way of having to classify what kind of risk and controls can be attributed to people, process, and tech. Now, when it comes to technology, obviously, there is less of people controls and people-based risks, because most of the people-based risk will be with either a privacy or a data or probably an operational risk. Now, when it comes to process and technology, now what will be the right structure is something that we were discussing. And, we would start off with having to understand there needs to be a function, a control function within IT, which in fact can be able to reach out to the system owners, and they can do an RCSA, which is a risk controls self-assessment, having to understand right from the system owners on, is the risk around uptime of a system, or is the risk around certain scalability of the infrastructure. And apart from that, once the RCSA is in fact being done, let's say twice in a year or once in a year popularly, the risks are identified. The controls in fact are being suggested by the second line, which is the risk office. And the movement towards having to ensure that the controls are being implemented happens through a strategic roadmap within IT, and the CIO in fact gets to fund all of these controls as well as management of the controls. Now, one best practice which I would in fact call out is that I would suggest the IT controls as a function, if not available, to be set up within banks, and if available, to be able to open up a capability called in-flight risk management. So we should be able to take in risks as well as control sessions round through the year and not once or twice in a year. So that's something that has worked out for me wonderfully well in the past.
I think the multi-stakeholder thing which you spoke about is not the risk mitigation is not a function of a CRO, Chief Risk Officer, or IT department. It's a collaboration between the various functions of institution. Along with service provider like us, we have to identify the touch points of various technologies, various processes, and about people also. How do you go and do activity? More often than not nowadays, the technology is growing, is changing at a very fast pace. The needs of business are also changing. So the in-flight change, which you spoke about, which I call it proactive change about this, is about how do you remain relevant on the topic of risk mitigation often in your business, rather than unlike old times where the technology changing after 5 years or 3 years, and you talk there about risk mitigation only once in a year. So it's a very active topic in all the priorities of any institutions, banking and non-banking, both of them. And I'm sure that all institutions will take a priority on this also, as well as the right technology adoption for this.
Absolutely. Now, words such as adaptive and agile have gone from being just buzzwords to actual priorities, as the two of you have demonstrated right now. What are some of the key principles and priorities for Kyndryl when you're engaging with customers, especially from the financial sector?
In terms of principles and solutions which we provide to an institution in financial services, priority is about helping them to grow in terms of their objectives. For example, in banking nowadays, financial inclusion is the largest priority for anyone. Enabled by the government policies, of course. Customer experience is the second one. Third one is about being resilient. We spoke about that earlier a lot. And the last one is about compliant to regulations, right? These are the few objectives which you want to provide as service to our financial services customers. The four objectives and blocks which we provide services across is about de-risking business, about enabling them on the risk management of it, through security, through resiliency, through fraud management and solutions. Advanced capabilities about data AI. Data AI is becoming a part of the journey of all the customers in terms of their providing the services or new product customer journeys and enabling the cross collaborations. So advanced capabilities in terms of data AI. Third is about being part of innovations to customers. We can't be a service provider only providing technology services, but we want to be part of partnership for journey in the innovations to the customers. Many customers which we are engaging with, we co-create solutions along with them. Co-creation become a key aspect of a longer journey rather than transactional business out of it. And we also bring our experience across from working with various engagements with customers. Last but not least is about service orientations. The business service orientations provide us the ability to provide relevant to the businesses of the customers and financial institutions beyond IT. Right, and here what we bring on table is about the capabilities on the three blocks which I spoke about earlier: the advanced capabilities, the de-risking part of it, and being part of innovation together. And it's a journey which we want to be relevant to the customers across, and it's on foundation of the skills and technology areas and platform which we have got. For example, we've got Kindle Bridge. Kindle Bridge is our platform for providing the observability across the environment of customers on-premise environment, cloud services, or platforms which are there, which customers have got. The idea is to bring the automation at the edge of services to the customers and make it less dependent on people, but on functions which are driven by real automations, processes, and key technologies across.
Well, this multi-pronged approach is definitely innovative, with innovation being the operative word here. Now, Tej, when you are partnering with a tech provider, what are the sort of priorities that you have as a financial institution?
I would call out that, specific aspects around having to ensure that, when we talk about certain new age technologies like GenAI or LLMs, now we know that, they'll be able to solve for certain challenges in the existing ecosystem, but we're looking for certain thought leadership. Now, if it is me, I would be looking for certain thought leadership to be able to co-create solutions, as he rightly said, around what is the best way to be able to leverage tech like GenAI to be able to ensure that, we are improving our operational efficiency. Now, that is something which, in fact, I look forward to. And apart from that, it's just not about having to put in tech. It's also about putting the right people to be able to maneuver the tech, and also putting the customer in the forefront to be able to ensure that, the journeys are seamless. And that's when all of these aspects come together through the partner having to enable this ecosystem to solve for challenges or to look for opportunities to be able to improve on our market shares, or to service our customers better, or to, in fact, improve on our sustainability scores.
Now, that brings us to a wrap on this discussion. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been my absolute pleasure to listen to your wealth of experiences and your perspective on the various topics that we covered today. And also thank you so much, viewer, for joining us and being a part of this insightful discussion. So do remember to stay tuned for more such exciting conversations.